My name is Sami Saad. I'm a pharmacist. That's my profession. I started in pharmaceutical marketing in the Middle East with Novartis Pharmaceutical, one of the giants, where I was promoting ethical pharmaceuticals prescription products to physicians. I chose Mississauga as my new home in 1995. I have been working as a licensed community pharmacist since '97. And it's not only a career, but it's my passion. And what I like to do is to focus on one patient at a time in order to get to a positive health outcome. One of my specialties is pharmaceutical compounding. This is to mean to make a personalized medicine for a personalized situation with a patient. So one day in my practice, a patient shows up and says, I have this prescription for Lamisil. That's a prescription product for nail fungal infection. It's an oral medication by mouth. And he says, I have been reluctant to take the medication for 4 years now, but I really like to get to this infection. All the 4 nails in his hand were gone. He was even, he was an engineer. And he says, I am even embarrassed to sign my own work. So what can you do for me? This has triggered a research on this life science technology, and I'm thrilled to present it today. As you see here in this slide, these are perfectly healthy nails. It's not only about the looks, but also it tells you about the whole overall physical health of the person. It's not just about the nail. Very, very perfect. I wish all ladies have such kind of healthy nails. If you have your morning coffee still, I recommend to set aside before the next slide. So there is this is actually the engineer I was telling you about, and this is actually in the middle of treatment. Before the treatment, there was not even nails at all. Even this part is starting to grow. Before that, there was nothing. So if we look here, those kind of nails or infection of the nails or the 2 nails thicken, discolor, brittle, does not look well, and also there is associated pain. Sometimes every step there is pain with this. The question is, how long does it take for those nails to be cured on their own? The reality is never. You need to get a treatment. Let's look at the treatment. First, the market actually is not a small population. 10% of the population is affected. That means 700 million people around the world suffer from nail infection. And as we mentioned, this discoloration and all this disfigurement, this is one of the worst cases you can actually get in the clinic. Most of them are for the toenails. Most of the infections are for the toenails. Let's take a snapshot at the biggest market revenue-wise, which is the US market. It's 35 million people in the US, which is about 10% of the population again. And 47% do not have a treatment. They have no treatment. We know why. 53% don't have treatment, and we'll see what are the disadvantages of those 53%. So for our technology, it's about $1 billion market, and the US will represent 35% of that market. The cure can be sometimes worse than the disease because of side effects. Not only side effects, but even it's only 38% effective. This is the standard of care that is current. There are disadvantages: liver toxicity, liver function testing, and this has burden on our healthcare resources. Lamisil by Novartis is the market leader at this time. Spoke about that. And even with Lamisil, you cannot mix it with other medications, especially cholesterol pills. And that's important when we see the demographics of the patients who suffer from this infection. Even grapefruit juice cannot be mixed with Lamisil because of the liver problem. It also has a high relapse rate. In spite of all that, let's look at the global sales currently. It's 500 million in 2012 after being generic. Before that, it used to be $1.2 billion. It's still heavily prescribed, 1.4 billion new prescriptions per year in the US alone. Another alternative is a topical. It's by Aventis. It's Penlac, and only 8% effective because probably does not penetrate the nail structure. You need to use a nail polish remover before applying the next coat, which is an inconvenience. We found that in clinical practice that is even an inconvenience, especially with male patients. And the population in the US currently sits at 350,000 new prescriptions a year. There are also Sporanox by Janssen under development by Glaxo and Valiant. So the market is growing at a 7% annual growth rate. It will reach $3.4 billion market globally by 2017. And still there is unmet medical need. Let's look at our customer or who uses this. 50% of the patients are over 50, so that use cholesterol medication. And 25% are patients with are diabetics or have immune problems, and the rest 25%. So the opportunity for us is, again, is $1 billion. The most important are North America, Western Europe, Japan, Australia, BRIC emerging countries, and Middle East Gulf states. I'd like to introduce today RAFO2, that's our breakthrough technology for the treatment of nail fungus. It has higher efficacy and better tolerance. So that solved the problem of the unmet medical need. With our case study in 2012, we had 100% clear nail results, so better tolerability, no reported side effects, sustained release formulation. That means when I apply RAFO2 on my nail, and that's RAFO2, when I apply to the nail, 1 or 2 drops as a solution, and then within few minutes, it will make a film. This film stays on for 24 hours. That's extremely important in treatment and make the patient adherence to treatment easy, and thereby you can get better results. There were labs reported. Again, why we say it's a great technology? Because the nail is very thick. It's 100 times denser than the skin. So RAFO2 can penetrate the nail structure. All the ingredients are FDA approved, so that will take less time to the market. No interaction with foods, no strain on medical resources, no need to use nail polish remover. This is actually one of our case studies, one of the worst cases that actually does not get included in clinical trials. And this before, and that's after RAFO2. This is our team. We are proud to be part of the RIC Center. James is our commercialization advisor. Also, Dr. Crawford is our scientific advisor. Through the Canadian Trade Commissioner, we have secured an incubator space in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and we are proud of our partnership with the Canadian Trade Commissioner. What is the business model? The business model is out licensing, either globally or on a regional basis with other pharmaceutical partners. That will include upfront payment, milestone payments, and royalties along the road. The next step are to scale up in other indications. The technology is a platform technology. So this can be scaled up to other indications, and we need to do more research and development on that. And again, this is in partnership with other pharmaceutical companies. What we're looking for right now is at this stage to invest $500,000 for regional IP filing. We have already filed for IP in Canada. In the US, we reached the international phase, and now we need to file in each jurisdiction. And we also need to do limited stability studies, limited clinical trials in order to market RAFO2 to other pharmaceutical companies. At the end, I'd like to conclude that I am, thank you all for coming here today, and I'm proud to present RAFO2 as the new standard of care for nail fungal infection. Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. Very interesting the solution you have there. Maybe just a few questions. You talked about this market segment, and the green segment, which is the one I think you were focusing on, tended to be, I guess, for those who didn't have either liver problems or is this, are you trying to replace the other topical solutions, or would this also be a replacement for the ingested drugs?
We're aiming to become the new standard of treatment, so also the ingested. Actually, we know that for a fact that the Novartis, the Lamisil manufacturer, have been working on a topical without success for some time. So coming to a topical product that works more effective, this is a great breakthrough.
And your topical, how different is it than, for example, the other ones? You talked about the low efficacy of the existing topical, and you've been filing your patents. How different is it, and how replaceable would it be? Like, how much can you protect your intellectual property, do you think?
We do have a reputable firm and a great lawyer who works on IP. We had to do extensive research on IP before filing. And at this time, it's not replaceable. Like, the opinion of our IP council that it's not replaceable, it's unique. And again, it's not only for the fungal infection. Fungal infection is the first indication, but it applies to other topical indications. For example, cold sore, once a day application for cold sore as opposed to the current treatment of 5 times a day. But this needs more research.
And you talked at the end about your plan to try to monetize it, and you talked about licensing. Can you talk a little bit more about what the necessary steps will be and how you see, like, what the scale of that would be, and how you will actually turn this great idea into something that is something that provides a return back to the investors, and how you see keeping that as a sustainable stream of income?
Well, we have been marketing this technology at Bio Conference in Chicago last month. We have had 52 one-on-one meetings with other manufacturers and brokers, and there seems to be a lot of interest. We are in preliminary talks with different pharmaceutical companies and brokers. And this is the way pharmaceutical manufacturers get their products. Not all of them, the pipeline is done in-house, but some of them are licensed in from other research and development companies like ours.
Thanks. Will this be through a prescription or do you buy it over the counter?
It depends on the jurisdiction. The active ingredient we're using right now is an over-the-counter medication in Canada used for fungal infection. It's an oral medication. In the US, still prescription products, so it depends on the jurisdiction and whether if the topical would be applied as the OTC or prescription. We favor the prescription market because of drug tends to be covered.
And what's the expected cost of the treatment?
Such a bottle, 10 ml bottle, will last for about a month to 2 months. So this, if we compare it to the 10 labs, so this will cost about $100 for the patient.
You mentioned 7% growth. Is that because of population growth, or do you expect more people getting fungal infections?
It's mostly because of the growth of the fungal infection. This is actually published data, and we can get it based on IMS data and expectations.
In terms of the patents, does your patent relate to the API, or does it relate to your transfer holding mechanism for actually keeping the solution on the nail?
It is to the vehicle itself. The vehicle has actually, when we were trying to tackle this problem, we had to come up with a vehicle that first dissolved the active ingredient. That's not easy, because we have to have that higher concentration, like 10% that we use. The other thing is to make it adhere to the nail for 24 hours by once-a-day application. It's a film-forming solution. So this is actually the platform technology. And as I mentioned, using an active ingredient, an antifungal, this is only the first step.
And then in terms of FDA approval requirements for RAFL2, is there, like, kind of where are you in that process, if anything's required, and I'm assuming it's different?
We are very familiar with the clinical trials required. The beauty of our product RAFL2 that we don't have to go through preclinical and then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We will be ready to roll on phase 3 right away because all the ingredients were selected that are FDA approved.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So last round of applause for Tim.